Hello, my friends. My name is Darren Gertis, and this is the daily brief for Sunday, June 9th, 2024. So the battlefield's still going pretty hot. 1,270 Russians off the battlefield, 26 tanks removed, 26 armored combat vehicles, 60 artillery pieces, and 78 vehicles and fuel tanks. Those are pretty high numbers for the losses. Here's what Andrew Perpetua has shown us about a 2.5, maybe 3-to-1 ratio of Russian losses to Ukrainian losses. The day before, it was like 4 or 5-to-1. So again, it's still pretty hot. What's interesting to my mind is this: Ukraine's defense forces control most of Volchansk. Russians move their troops there. So it's still hot, but apparently the Ukrainians are pushing back some. Now, I want to show you this for not the reason that they control parts of it and how much they control. I don't know. I'm not, a frontline expert guy, but not this paragraph. The next paragraph is what I found most interesting. Ukraine's defense forces control most of the city of Volchansk and Kharkiv. This is the very north of Kharkiv, near the Russian border, one of the smaller settlements. And the Russians are building up their group in this area. But this paragraph here was really interesting. There is also information that the enemy is using the tactic of deploying barrier units from among the personnel of Akhmat units loyal to Chechen leader Ramzan Kadyrov to support its activities. Barrier units, also known as anti-retreat forces, are deployed to prevent retreat or desertion among their own forces. They are positioned behind the battlefield to ensure discipline or enforce discipline and ensure that soldiers remain engaged in combat. Or you retreat and we can shoot you. It's just like that's what's going on. It's really yeah, they did this in World War II and they're doing this now. Okay, over 67,000 women serve in the Ukrainian army. So this is important just because it's highlighting the okay, so mobilization is a significant issue within Ukraine right now, and they don't have enough men to continue to carry on the fight long enough to prosecute the war, so they have to mobilize more men. And so 67,000 women serving in the military is significant. And of those 67,000 women, only 19,000 are workers. The rest of that are actually serving in a military capacity of some sort or another. Before the full-scale invasion, women were confined to mainly non-combat roles like medical specialists and clerks, but after the lifting of restrictions on military roles, women could also serve in combat and leadership positions. Again, mobilization is going to be the key to Ukrainian victory or the ability to achieve a victory. If they do not mobilize in sufficient numbers, they will not be able to prevail, and they know that. They need to do this. Okay, this is the big story right now. Ukraine hits a Su-57 fighter jet inside Russia. This is next gen. If you watch something like the Top Gun, the new Top Gun movie, they kept talking about Maverick. They kept talking about, well, next gen fighters this, next gen fighters that, or as opposed to like what a Tomcat was back when Tom Cruise initially filmed it. So they hit one of these. It's significant. They didn't hit it in the air, though. They hit it, from what I understand, on the ground. Ukrainian forces have damaged an advanced Russian Su-57 jet hundreds of miles away from the front lines inside Moscow's internationally recognized territory, Kyiv's military spy agency said on Sunday, adding that this was the first such case in history. An Su-57 jet was struck on Saturday at the Akhtubinsk airfield in southern Russian Republic of Astrakhan. Where is that? I didn't know where it was, and so I'm learning geography. It's over here. Here is Donetsk and Zaporizhia, Mariupol, right? Rostov-on-Don, Volgograd. Okay, it's over here. That's where the airfield was. Okay, it's now being determined whether it can be restored or not, the fighter bomber Telegram channel added. And this is all over legitimate news as well. And here's the defense of Ukraine. For the first time, a Russian Su-57 jet was hit on June 8th. The multipurpose fighter was hit on the territory of the base, located 589 kilometers from the front line. It's the most modern fighter jet in Russia, and there are just a few. Well, it really is just a few, and that's pretty impressive. So how many is a few? If it's true, it's a startling blow to Russia's air power. The Russian Air Force has acquired just 2 dozen or so copies of the twin-engine supersonic Su-57. So 1 out of about 25. So that's pretty impressive, or pretty amazing that they were able to do that. Here's something else that's pretty amazing. Ukraine intercepts Russian drone with propeller trainer aircraft. And they did it again. This is the second time that they've done this kind of thing. So Ukraine has used a Yak-52 propeller-driven trainer aircraft to down a Russian Zala drone over Mykolaiv region. Okay, so what are we talking about? 2 pilots were clearly visible on board the camouflage-painted Yak-52 with both canopies open. Since the Yak has no onboard weapons, it's assumed that the weapons were fired from the co-pilot in the instructor seat. so so shooting like with some kind of gun from the co-pilot's seat, they knocked down this drone. And this also happened again before. In April, Kyiv Post reported how another Ukrainian Yak-52 trainer aircraft chased down a Russian Orlan-10 reconnaissance drone over the Odessa region. Estimated the Orlan-10 drone cost between $87,000 and $120,000. Orlan-10, by the way, looks like this. So this was no mean feat to shoot something that small from a moving aircraft with a canopy open, just shooting at it like with a rifle or handgun or something. I don't know what they shot it with, but wow, how about that? Okay. Finland exports state-of-the-art weapons to Ukraine, including prototypes in development. Like we're talking about, let's get rid of our old stocks. Before we have to destroy them ourselves and they expire. But Finland's no, they're not doing that. They're supplying new weapons and testing it on, well, Russians. I mean, that's who they would be using it on anyway, right? Finnish Defense Forces armament chief revealed that exported arms are not limited to old stockpiles, but include the latest innovations from the Finnish defense industry. How do these work on Russians? Because after all, the combat use experience gained will prove invaluable for the development of Finland's future military technology. They're thinking. Okay, a little bit more. The Taliban was at so now the next few articles we're going to be talking about the St. Petersburg Economic Forum. Okay, and the Taliban showed up to the St. Petersburg Economic Forum. Since coming to power in Afghanistan in 2021, the Taliban have banned girls from secondary school and higher education. Women are not allowed to attend universities, including as teachers. They are also forbidden to leave the house without burqas, to visit parks, swimming pools, and gyms. For adultery, they face public death by stoning. St. Petersburg Governor Alexander Beglov met with its participants. "Thank God you are here," Beglov said, addressing them. Okay, Russia is going to remove the Taliban from the list of terrorists. Why? Well, for practical reasons. But listen to the practical reasons. In late May, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Ministry of Justice reported to Putin on the expediency of such a step. Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova said that the decision was made for pragmatic reasons, as the Taliban are in power in Afghanistan and without contacts with many of with them, many of the problems that pose a threat to Russia cannot be solved. What were the problems? She named drug trafficking, terrorism, and crime among them. But we're removing them from the list, but the problems are drug trafficking and terrorism and crime, but we're removing them from the terrorist list. So, okay. In other news, we remember that Scott Ritter was removed from a plane on his way to the St. Petersburg Economic Forum, and so he was, zoomed in by video, so he still spoke to the forum and was talking about how it's essential that all of us work together so we can avoid the conflict that people that are in power today are pursuing. But he's talking about Western leaders who are trying to promote more conflict, not that Russia is, I don't know, invading its neighbor. Former Austrian Foreign Minister Karen Gnitzel confirmed in an interview with TASS the existence of plans in the West to break up Russia. Okay, so let's look at TASS. Former Australian foreign minister confirms this in an interview that the West wants to break up Russia. I didn't see the documents, but I saw statements by people who work at the Atlantic Council. Russia has designated the Atlantic Council as an undesirable organization. When asked whether the West still has these plans, she replied, yes. Okay, so that's her smoking gun. And now, who is Knitzel? In 2020, Karen Knitzel began contributing opinion pieces to Russia's state-controlled media outlet RT. She became a visiting professor for the Moscow State Institute of International Relations. So this is telling you where her proclivities lie. Last little bit by Darth Putin, she's talking about this Knitzel piece and task. The West plans to break up Russia so it can get our resources that it already has, can get elsewhere, or will soon no longer need. There is also the benefit of a major refugee crisis and nukes ending up with madmen like Kadyrov. Okay, well, I mean, there is that. That's all that I have, my friends. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the likes, the shares, the subscribes, and thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.